million jobs over the next 5 years. I caught up with Josh Frydenberg and put to him that this sounds more like a target than a promise.
Well, it's our commitment, just as we've previously created 1.3 million jobs over the last 5 years, we want to do it again. And in fact, since we've come to government, Chris, there's nearly 2 million more Australians who are now in work. Despite the COVID-induced recession, Australia now has an unemployment rate at its equal lowest in 48 years. It's some 4%. And that the female unemployment rate is now its lowest level since 1974. We've maintained our AAA credit rating. We put in programs like JobKeeper, which helped save the economy when it was staring into the economic abyss. Now we're seeing small businesses back on their feet after they had to close their doors for an extended period. And we have the economic plan to create those new jobs, as outlined in the budget, by investing in manufacturing, investing in skills and apprenticeships, investing in our regions and backing small business with lower taxes. That's our economic plan. And it stands in very stark contrast to Anthony Albanese and Labor, who don't have an economic plan.
I'll come to Anthony Albanese.
But they don't have a plan.
I'll come to Anthony Albanese in a moment, but if you do manage to generate another 1.3 million jobs over the next 5 years, taking into account more people coming into the workforce, immigration starting up again, what sort of an unemployment rate would you envisage we would have in 5 years' time?
3.5 would be our goal. What we have seen in the Treasury forecast is that the unemployment rate is expected to have a 3 in front of it later this year, 3 3/4 by the September period. And we would hope to keep it in the 3s, as Treasury had forecast for a number of years, and then ultimately even get lower to 3.5. That would be our goal. And if we create 1.3 million new jobs, that is certainly what can be achieved. But again, look at our track record. Our track record is to see lower unemployment, and that is what we're seeking to do again.
Now, when you talk about the unemployment number, it does remind us of that horror day yesterday by the Labor leader, Anthony Albanese. He says this was just a mistake and he wants to move on very quickly. Now, in my view, it's much more than a mistake. It's a revelation about his lack of knowledge of economic matters. The cash rate and the unemployment rate are two of the most important numbers in the economic debate, certainly two of the top 4 or 5 numbers, I would have thought. What are your plans then to try and continue this economic focus on Anthony Albanese, to try and draw him in to a serious economic debate?
Well, we know that a strong economy is the foundation for so much more. You can't guarantee the essential services that people rely on, the aged care, the disability support, the hospital and the school funding, unless you have a strong economy. You can't invest, as we need to do as a nation, more in defence and national security without a strong economy. And having a job is not just about a number on a page, it's actually about the mum or the dad behind that number on a page, the brother or the sister, the son or the daughter. And there's real dignity in work. And that's why our achievement as a government to get the unemployment rate down to just 4% and going lower is very, very significant, because Australia has avoided the economic results and consequences of the recessions we saw in the past, where the unemployment rate was elevated for up to a full decade. We now have an unemployment rate that at 4% is significantly lower than the 5.7% Labor had when they were last in office. Now, what Anthony Albanese has confirmed to every Australian is that he's not up to the task. He's out of his depth. He may whisper sweet nothings into the ears of 26 million Australians, but they're exactly that, sweet nothings. There's no economic plan behind it. He's never held a Treasury portfolio. He's never delivered a budget. In fact, he thinks that his idea of an economic plan is tabling his Year 10 economics assignment in the Parliament. What a joke that was. All his life, Chris, he has championed higher taxes, obviously the carbon tax and the congestion tax, a mining tax, the retirees tax, the housing tax, higher taxes on income earners, higher taxes on family businesses, and of course higher taxes on housing. That has been what his track record shows he believes in. Now he just wants to sneak into government, and with the election now being called, people are asking him some hard questions, and Australians are getting a good look at the alternative Prime Minister, and they don't like what they see.
Well, you and the Prime Minister really probably couldn't believe your luck yesterday when you heard about those failures. Are you going to leave it behind now and move on? Continue with the election campaign as planned?
Well, it's a long election campaign, some 6 weeks in length, and this was day one. But again, it lifted the veil on his inexperience and lack of understanding about economic matters. He's never held a Treasury portfolio. He's never delivered a budget. He's championed higher taxes. He'll always spend more. And even in just the last couple of years, we've seen him put forward policies like wasting $6 billion of taxpayers' money to pay people to get the jab, even though they've had the jab. And when I brought JobKeeper to an end, he said, in his words, the economic roof would come crashing down. Well, within 3 months, 120,000 more jobs were created. So it was a false prophecy if ever there was one. And so this lack of understanding, which is a point the Prime Minister was making at the press conference today, it's a lack of understanding which should worry Australians most about this alternative Prime Minister.
Now, let's talk about these independent campaigns, because one of them is running against you, the Voices of Independence. I've had a real go at them. I believe it's a fraudulent political movement because they're pretending to be independent when they're not, and because they won't say who they would back if they formed government. Now, a couple of them have been out today, predictably on the ABC. They're saying they're not a party, they're just values aligned, and they're still refusing to say who they would negotiate to form government with if there's a hung parliament. Couldn't you call them out here on the Liberal side, on the coalition side, by saying that you would not enter into any agreements with these Voices of Independence if they do end up holding any position of power in a hung parliament?
Well, let's get the facts straight here. These independents are fake independents. They're organised like a political party. They're run like a political party. They're only challenging Liberal sitting members and coalition sitting members. They're running on a Labor Party platform, and they're running with the support of the Labor Party platform. In my electorate, you barely can find a Labor or a Greens poster. That's because every Labor and Greens sympathiser has an independent poster in their front yard. And in fact, my political opponent in Kooyong, the so-called fake independent, is a former long-standing member of the Labor Party. And when they went on, dare I say, at the ABC and was asked for their political background, they said they had none. They said they were a clean skin. They went as far as to say they were a small L Liberal. I mean, that's just hogwash. And now they're telling the community of Kooyong, and indeed the community in which other independents are running, that they won't reveal who they vote for on the other side of the election. Well, I'll tell you this, Chris. The last time an independent ran against me in Kooyong, it was 2019. That same independent is now supporting the current fake independent. They did say who they were going to vote for on the other side, and it was the Labor Party. And the fact that they're not saying it this time indicates that they thought that that worked against them to reveal their true beliefs, their true intentions. That worked against them. And so they want everyone to forget that, and now they just want to sneak into Parliament. Well, we won't let that happen. We'll expose them for what they are, fake independents running on a Labor platform, running with the support of the Labor Party, organised as a political party, and in many cases former Labor members themselves.
It's certainly true. Can't argue with that. Thanks for joining us, Josh Frydenberg.
My pleasure, Chris.